Welcome to my YouTube channel, the story of Bishop Henry Mulandi. Today we are doing chapter 1, the last part of chapter 1. Last time we were here, I tried to do the introduction and also part of chapter 1. This, for me, going back to those days and sharing these stories makes me really appreciate where I am today, where God has brought me to. So as I tell you these stories, I hope that you can also imagine that someday, wherever you are, you're going to be at a different place. God is going to lift you up to another place. God has been real good to me. I remember those days before and during, my primary days, my school days in primary. Clothing was hard to come by. You went with one cloth. If it is a shirt and a short, you went with it for days, months, and sometimes you would lose, the original material because of putting, patches, either the knee or the back. You would have a very big hole, and you get a patch. You will sew it on. Sometimes we will do it, we would not even have a needle to sew it well. We probably use the sisal, the thorn at the end of the sisal. I remember using that to sew my clothes, to repair my clothes. And they went for quite some time. Now, when it came to cleaning them, that was another funny part, because we didn't have soap because of poverty in the home. I don't remember seeing much of soap in the home. So we went out in the woods, and we would look for a certain tree that had a big root like a big, a sweet potato, but bigger than that. In my language, you would call it kididi. And that one, when you would scrub it on your clothes on a rock, you would scrub it. It produced some soap-like material, and we were able to clean it up, clean our clothes, wash them at the river, hang them, and use them. But one other thing that today, when I see young people, and I know some of you have had the trousers, the jeans you go to buy with holes at the knee or somewhere in the middle, nothing offends me like seeing someone today going to the store or to a shop or to a mitumba, those of you who know what mitumba is, and buying some cloth that has a hole, and it was made purposely for that, and that is a style. For me, when I put on that kind of a cloth, it was poverty. You couldn't get a better one than that one. So when I see young people going out there and get, good money, and I hear they are more expensive than the normal ones, I just shake my head. So anyway, what can you say? It is today. I remember at the home, never did we ever go to a health clinic or hospital. We would get sick for sure. And the one I remember very well is when we would have a flu, like all of us had flu and we were coughing and all that. My father would get certain roots of trees, and he would come and boil it. Boil it with a big sufuria, we call it a sufuria, or a big pan, and cover it. And after it has boiled, being covered, we would be made to squat somewhere, looking into this boiling stuff. We would be covered. We will all of us round the sufuria or the pan. We will all round, and we are looking into it, and we are covered with a blanket. Our father would cover us with a blanket, and then he would put his hand inside and kind of pull the lid. And then there the vapor would come out and we will breathe it. We'll breathe it, and let me tell you, by the time it cooled down, we were sweating. And let me tell you, we got healed. We would get healed. Out from there, we would just run around healthy, after that. So that is interesting that today we are talking about coronavirus here, devastating countries and people. Maybe we need a father to get some roots and have us breathe into it. That will resolve our issue. We're still in chapter 1 of my book. Then it came time for me to go to standard 1 or elementary 1. Oh my goodness. First of all, I refused to go to school. I went out looking after the cows and the goats that were there. My sisters and my brothers that were ahead of me went to school, fine. And I remained there. And I'll never forget my sister, Ryle, who was older than me, encouraging me to go to school. And this is prophetic. I don't think she wasn't a prophet, but this is what she would tell me. She would tell me, you know what? You will be able, when you go to school, you'll be able to speak to the white people. You'll speak their language. Man, that encouraged me so much that someday I will be speaking with and to white people. I had seen very little of white people. We call them wazungus. And I didn't know the language. I didn't know English. So that is one element that encouraged me to go to school, elementary school, standard 1. And this is the funny part. And I've said every time I go to high school rallies and weekend challenges, and I tell the boys and girls, you know what? I went to elementary 1, standard 1, when I was 15 years of age. And they all say, oh no, they start laughing. I said, yeah, that's true. The challenge of going to school at that, when we went to line up to do the interviews to be taken, you were told to put your hand like that. And if your hand did not reach the ear, you were told to go back home. Now, when I went there and I was told to do that, my hand just went all the other way. I was in for class 1, standard 1, at 15 years of age. I had challenges like boys making fun of me because I was the oldest. I was one of the big boys, and they would jump at me. They would, make fun of me. My dad, this is the way he would prepare me for class. He would take a knife, and that knife would be sharpened, sharp. And he would give me a real haircut. The Americans would call it an haircut, but the Kenyans, he would call it shave. He would shave me. And we would get soap, like sunlight soap that time, and so that it is softer. And my dad would start from here, and it went all the way down, preparing me for school. Then going to school, the boys would make fun of me, and they would knock this head that was shiny. And I would end up, bleeding. I had a few discouraging things. This is all in chapter 1. I had a few discouraging things in class and in school. Being, that grown-up, mature, I'm going to school with 7-year-old, 8-year-old in class 1 that time, and I'm 15, almost double their age. That was really challenging. I'll never forget one time, a boy had stoned a vehicle passing on the highway, and one day we were called for interrogation. And I didn't know what it was all about. And so it went around. After the interrogation, I was found guilty that I was the one who stoned the truck or the lorry. And I was punished. I was punished. And I was very offended because I knew it was not me. Well, anyway, they accused me falsely. And I was punished for it. I would run away from school from time to time. I would run away for a week. My sister would talk to me and encourage me to go back, to school, and I would go back. I would run away again. One of those days, I decided to take off, and two brothers or two relatives, age mates, I invited them that we go for a long journey. And running away from school, we went to our uncle's. We woke up very early in the morning preparing for the journey, and we were going to nowhere. You know, when I preach to boys about the hippie culture in America, who just left home going to nowhere, we left going to nowhere. And then we went to my uncle's farm. It was a small little farm, shamba, and we stole his sugar cane. He had very nice sugar cane. Oh, man. We went and harvested sugar cane. We carried some and we went eating some. What we didn't think about is how we threw we call them macambi, after chewing that stuff. We just threw it on the road. So it was so easy for someone to follow these thieves. So it was in the afternoon. We were resting on a tree, on a rock in the river, way, way far away from home, when I saw somebody coming, and as he came nearer and nearer, I realized it's one of our relatives, and he was after us. Let me tell you, we took off. Every one of us went different direction. We never met again with those boys. I ended up in a woman's home and asked for a job to shepherd her animals. So I was there watching after the cows and staying. I had found a place to stay. I would stay in their home. She fed me. See, I had run away from school. And one day, it's a long story, one day, I'm sitting there watching after the goats, and I see someone coming, and guess who it was? My elder brother was looking for me. Apparently, after we ran away from home, my two friends, when they ran off, they went to a construction site along the highway, Mombasa Highway. They went to a construction site, and they stole there. And the story came out that one of them had been killed there. So all that going back to our village, my mother thought that I was the one who was killed. So he sent our older brother to look for me. So he was looking for me. When he appeared, and I told him, tell me how is my mother, and he's told me how she is. But mother was told that you're dead. You went to a construction site and you were killed there. Let me tell you, I packed my things. I don't think I had anything, and headed home. That was a long journey going home, going to see my mother. I wanted to see her again. I had missed her for months. I was not paid my salary, but I went home. It was a moving moment, arriving home and my mother, grabbing me and sobbing and welcoming me home, that I was dead and now I'm alive. For me to look back like that and, remember those moments, it's gets me emotional. Let me finish this chapter by sharing with you one highlight where I think God had his hand on me from that young age, even though, and I will, chapter 2, please don't miss chapter 2, I'll be sharing about how I met Jesus. My mother told us this story, but you see, there was no food at home, and mother would go for days looking for food from relatives. This time she had gone to a place called Kabuko and was out there. And as she coming home carrying food, it was dark and it started raining and rained and rained. So she came to a river. We call it Usio Nene, meaning the big river. And my mother knew the river very well, but it was dark, and she starting to cross, thinking of her children at home at dark. And she could have been swept away by the floods. And she tells us she reached out her hand, and our warm hand held her and assisted her to cross. And out on the banks, this person disappeared. You know, I had not known the Lord. I had not known Jesus Christ. I had not known there were angels. I had not known much about God. Many years later, thinking over this story, I know that was an angel. And I know I've told my mother, that was an angel. God sent an angel to have you cross that river to bring us food. Maybe we could have, if my mother was carried by the water, I don't know whether I could have survived the famine those days as a boy growing up. I don't know. I don't know. God made sure he sent an angel to rescue my mother so that Henry could be somebody in years past or years to come. And that's why I'm sharing with you this story. God has had his hand over this man. He's brought me a long way, and I praise him. May the Lord bless you as you wait for chapter 2. If you have not subscribed to this YouTube channel, please do. Hit the button, subscribe, follow it, so that you can be notified when we have an episode or a story. I hope this builds you up. Please subscribe. God bless you.